Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's wait like some minutes and then firstly we'll start a really small test. And basically, okay, for those who are already with us, you can find new test in LMS. I'm going to open it now, and then it will be open like, let's say for half, it's like, yeah, good morning. Let's say for half an hour for those who overslept or for those who late for the lecture, etc. So like, okay, I'm going to start it now and then I will close it like 40 minutes past 11. Okay, so just go to LMS and open test for you. Okay, test is open now. It's called basically test 2. You can start now.
Здравствуйте. А это нормально, что во втором вопросе ответ дважды повторяется?
Just check. Just sorry, I need to. Okay. No, it is my mistake. No, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Just press it. Okay, it's my mistake, but basically okay, the question 2 is multiply choice. Yeah, so like if you decided that the second option is the right, then you need to click on the search option 2. Okay, it's my misprint, but basically, okay.
Okay, thank you.
You understand what to do?
Yes, of course.
Okay, good. So again, yeah, for those who with us, please, it's my misprint in the question 2, but if you decided that the second option in the question 2 is right, please, yeah, check the same option twice. Okay, and then Andrei, just Andrei, I cannot see what message do you have after the finish the test. Okay, for you, I open the test again, okay? Just a moment. Because, okay, sometimes it happens with LMS, basically. Okay, it's okay now. Then, okay. Can you give me like 2 seconds? I just check whether I have your results, basically. Just a moment. I need to check it. Basically, Andrei, I think I have your results, so don't worry. Yeah, basically, I have your results like 11:24, I think.
Евгения Юрьевна, у меня вылетел интернет, у меня баллы теста вообще не зачлись.
Так, подождите, сейчас. Знаете, я, к сожалению, не вижу, кто говорит. Можете сказать фамилию?
Гаврилова.
Ага.
То есть они просто даже не проставлены, как бы, что вот, а я их проставляла.
Посмотрю. Вы Елена?
Да.
Нету, 0:0. Да, слушайте, давайте я сейчас открою второй раз тест вам, потому что у вас стоит 0 баллов. Да, вряд ли 0 баллов.
Там даже ничего не выбрано, как бы, я выбирала. Мне интернет вылетел.
Я смотрела.
Хорошо, спасибо.
Окей, давайте тогда второй раз. Okay, for those who have a technical problem with test, I can open test for the second one. But basically, yeah, I see that you do not basically. Yeah, I see that basically you do not answer at all. Strange. Okay, Elena, I checked and you're right. Basically, you do not choose any.
So that's the thing, that I've chosen answers for all of the 9 questions, and when said like finish the test, my internet like broke for a second, and I also came out after from the Microsoft Teams configuration. You can also check it if you want it. So now I like improved my internet connection, and like I need like 2 minutes to pass again.
Basically, I see that I do not check your MS Teams because I see from the results of the test that you do not choose no answer. Okay, test is submitted, but no answer is chosen. Basically, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, for you, the second round then. Just type the same tag. Okay, I think we can start the lecture. Okay, for those who like have a problem, you have like still 10 minutes to do the test. Okay, you can still to do the test. And today, okay, I'm going to download the slides for you in LMS in order to have this. Today we start the topic maybe a bit complicated, but not so complicated.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And before we start, may I ask one question about the test? About one question.
Just a moment. Could I just in the process of downloading, just download and then open the question of the test, okay? Just a moment, sorry. I need to see the questions because I don't remember it by heart, basically.
Okay.
Okay, questions. What questions do you have?
So about the sixth question.
The sixth one, I just need to check that just a moment. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. 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 Just okay. I need to open the slides because I don't have it now. Could you read maybe what stayed there?
So on the 36th slide, it is stated then the last point. We then expect that the drop in the wage would encourage the firm to expand production.
Yeah.
So drop in the wage cause the result firm expanded production.
Yes. No. Look at the name of the slide. Yeah. And this is because of this I stayed like in the short run. In short run, a firm basically can decide it only what number of people it can hire. About expansion of the product, we talk about only in long run. So the questions for the 8 should be what? Yeah, it can expand only in the long run. Because of this, I basically I edit in the short run. It's crucial here. Not at all. Okay, let's start. Now I'm going to show my slides for you. You have it in your. What? Okay, you know that. I don't know why. You know that basically. Why? Just a moment. Sorry, because it doesn't show me. Come on. Basically, I open the slides and Teams does not want me to show you this. Okay, I just show my screen because I don't know what happened, but with the window for Teams, it doesn't allow me to show the window for this presentation. Okay, then I can combine it with your basically chat. Okay, we start with the human capital. Yeah, and you see the chapter for the basic textbook for today's lectures. Yeah, and basically, what is human capital? Yeah, human capital is basic concept of the labor market. According to theoretical framework that we state in, it's like neoclassical basic economic theory, yeah? We can define human capital as basically as a set of some skills of workers that can that they can trade in the labor market. Basically, human capital is your skills that you can sell in the labor market for wage. Yeah, and so if we speak about empirical economics, yeah, basically empirical labor studies, usually human capital can be calculated as education, for instance, as different cognitive and non-cognitive skills. So any marketable skills, yeah, that basically can allow you to find a job in the labor market. So in general notion, yeah, this human capital is just a set of abilities that can be contributed to the productivity of workers. So the most of the human capital, of course, you acquire during your education process. It's school, it can be additional education, and of course, it's higher education here in university. So the problem with this concept that first, yeah, on the one hand, yeah, this human capital is more wider than just education because, of course, on your wage can influence not only some formal education, yeah, it can be any soft skills, as you know, yeah, and soft skills sometimes do not occur during education, yeah, you can occur during different activities. But on the other hand, in this case, we have the problem of unobserved heterogeneity because your human capital can also base on your so-called nature abilities. I mean, based on your characteristics that sometimes it's really hard to consider or to estimate. Think about different cognitive and non-cognitive skills. If we believe that some skills are not changing over time, then we can say that even studying in university cannot change some personal attitudes, for instance. For one specific skill that somehow estimated and considered in the empirical literature is the risk attitude. Yeah, and there are basically articles that show up that risk attitudes first influence on wage, and second, it's kind of stable over time. Okay, could you assume what influence risk attitudes have on wage? Do we have positive or negative attitudes of risk on wages? Any suggestions?
Shouldn't it depends on the sphere of work?
Not really. I mean, there are studies that based on total labor market at whole. And it shows, yeah, that like, I mean, of course, but in general, yeah, if we see like average pictures, like risk-loving people, do you think hire more salary or not compared to risk aversion population, for instance?
Love people may have as they to use their skills. If you have labor contract, you will get the same way.
Unfortunately, probably we have a technical problems, and I don't know what about others. I can hear only each second word. Could you repeat, maybe? I'm sorry.
А сейчас меня слышно?
Да.
So I mean that if person doesn't take risk, for example, he work under the labor contract, he or she will get the same wage for the month. But if the employer accept all the risks. But if the person become the entrepreneur, so he is some kind more risk lover. So he accept the risk and the risk premium. So the wage is higher.
Yeah, I mean, it's one explanation. Yeah, basically, we have the risk premium, so-called, yeah, in the labor market. And for instance, as you said, yeah, it's one explanation. Other explanation that some specific sectors is usually occupied by risk lovers. What do you think? What sectors occupied by risk lovers with relatively high wages? Okay, what specific professions can be really occupied by people who love the risk? What about finance? Yeah, and basically there are studies that show that in finance, the percentage of like risk-loving people is higher compared to, for instance, I don't know, education and health, something like that.
Is it true that risk is correlated with the responsibility on the job?
Actually, I cannot answer on this because I do not really know the studies that really state this relationship. We may assume yes or no, it depends. Yeah, but I need to check, but I do not, like, now I do not study who try to basically research this connection. Probably yes, but there are studies that shows you the other basically side of this, the shadow, yeah, side, that when we study in informal sector, and informal sector usually have low wages compared to the formal sector, there are positive, yeah, connection between people who work in between like risk attitudes of people and probability of working in informal sector. But maybe it's because like informality, I mean, it's because of informality is kind of unstable, and probably people who decided to work in this informal sector, they are more risk loving. Yeah, but it depends. I mean, this is specific type of people. Is usually low educated, low qualified people who work in the informal sector, because like people with a high level of human capital usually stay in the formal sectors with a good working conditions. So it's not a story about the whole labor market, it's a story about some specific part of our labor force. Okay, so as I told, yeah, we have the problem of unobserved heterogeneity in this human capital idea, and because of that, we have in the basically labor economics, people usually try to solve this problem. So if we have unobserved heterogeneity, so if we have basically unobserved heterogeneity, what does it mean for empirical study? Basically, it means that we have the problem of omitted variable bias. And if we discuss the problem of omitted variable bias, it's usually basically lead to what problem in our econometric studies? Omitted variable bias, what problem you may have if you just run Euler's regression in your empirical research?
That our hypotheses are not correct?
Yeah.
Because our data are incorrect, just biased.
Not data, but what? I mean, your data, if you have normal sample, your data is correct.
Heterogeneity.
Incorrect. I'm going to close the test. So as I told you, okay.
So as I understand, we in that case, in the case of omitted variable, we can face the heterogeneity. No, in Russian it is called endogenность. So
Yeah.
you can try. Can you please spell it in English?
Endogeneity.
Endogeneity. And so we just can't use our ordinary OLS regression. So we need to use 2 or 3 base OLS regression or something else.
Yeah, you're right. And basically, I'm not sure whether you'll go. Okay, do you have any econometrics courses like in the next modules? Okay, now, the question is simple. Do you finish in this model with your basic econometrics course, or do you have any econometrics, like really basic econometrics in the third and the fourth model?
As I know, the basic one finishes that module, but we'll have some additional courses like time series or something like that.
Yeah, additional is not for everybody. Okay, do you discuss so-called instrumental variable problems in your econometrics? Instrumental variable regressions? IV regression?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have just finished studying them.
Oh, cool. So you know that IV is one basically possible solution for somehow dealing with endogeneity. Yes, you remember from the discussing.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So basically, so one solution for this, for instance, IV regressions. Then we have many other solutions, but for instance, in labor economics, IV is rather widespread because it's typically a solution to deal with endogeneity when you try to estimate the return on education on wages. Yeah, it can be different experiments and etc. Okay. Human capital. Okay, basically, modern labor economics based on this neoclassical approach. It's so-called Becker view. This is classical Becker human capital theory. So, if you are going to, I don't know, read some articles that dealing with education, wage, and labor market, you usually deal with this Becker human capital theory. It's like really pillar of the modern labor economics, but also there are, of course, alternative theory just for you. Yeah, one is Gardner view. Yeah, the other is simple version of this approach is that we need to understand there are different types of human capitals, like mental and physical abilities. Yeah, and this is a different skills. Like Becker human capital theory basically do not really divide it by physical and mental. It's like some basically set of abilities. Yeah, but other view said that we need to understand about mental and physical skills. So other idea that is maybe it's kind of strange. Yeah, it's like Schulz-Nelson-Fels view. It's usually sometimes it's basically I saw this in management studies. Yeah, sometimes people use this theory in management. Yeah, sometimes. So the idea is what? There's a human capital basically useful when we're dealing with so-called disequilibrium situation. So with a situation of changing environment. And the human capital basically allows to predict how workers can adapt to this different disequilibrium situation, to this changing environment. Yeah, and if you maybe read something about technical progress, yeah, now we have now new technological. Okay, we have a new technology revolution. It's called Revolution 4.0. It's like new technology. Yeah, it's usually about this. How people with different, for instance, education can adapt to this new technology era. Other theory, it's basically widespread in modern labor economics too. But it's mostly not about like how our human capital can define our wage. It's like from the position of demand of the labor. And basically, this is a Spencer signals theory. We are going to discuss it in details a bit later. And in this theory, we suppose that the human capital can be a signal for employers' productivity. And in this case, if we speak about labor demand, so you basically, your formal education, for instance, can be a signal in the labor market for your productivity. So, and so this signal theory basically can explain, partly, why people with higher education working in the same, in the same field can have different wages, because everybody can have higher education, but we need to think about quality of the higher education. And your formal diploma from specific university can be a signal basically in the labor market and can provide different opportunities to find a job. So for you from High School of Economics, it would be other opportunities to find a good job compared to people. I don't want to basically tell the name of the other university. Okay, you can suppose compare to not to the university, not that in other regions, for instance, who are not in the top of the list of the Russian university, like so-called. Okay, let's call it that, like non-leading Russian university. Okay, then the other way is called of really alternative. It's called it's somehow Marxian critique, of the human capital theory. And basically, it's more sociological view. They're really not spread in economics. It's maybe not like major view in the modern economic theory, but. So basically, according to this idea, human capital is just a bench of rules that you adapt when you're studying in school and university. And these rules basically are needed in order to be part of society. If you're interested in these ideas, this is really similar, not similar, it's really close, kind of similar, maybe close view of a postmodern social theory. If you're interested just in reading, like before your bedtime, probably you know the philosopher called Foucault in English, Foucault in Russian. Basically he has his book about obey and punishment, надзирать и наказывать in Russian. So it's kind of interesting about modern world. Just small opposite. It's not about labor economics, but just for you. Okay. So human capital investment. The main questions for our labor economics theory is like, why basically people decide to go to university? So like, why? Okay, why do you decide to go to university? Basically, the questions to you. Why do you decide to go to HSC? In particular, in economics, maybe in management. Why you decided to go to HSC? What is the main driven powers for you to enter the HSC?
Maybe gaining confidence in finding a good job.
For instance, for Konstantin Zavoitar, Konstantin, you know that HSC is not the easiest way to avoid army, basically. You can go in any university you want and do not suffer basically this HSC, It's kind of suffering time. Okay, for instance, like confidence, yeah, to have basically opportunities to find a good job. So basically it's about future earnings, yeah, your future wages. You think that, and okay, according to my basically experience, HSC diploma helps in your life. Yeah, as I told basically in the seminar above, especially if you want to go to so-called how to call it, like government consulting, different consulting centers that dealing with the government decision. It's like analytical center of the, how to call this, of the government, like аналитический центр при правительстве. Yeah, they really adore the HSC diplomas. And other consulting basically organizations really like HSC people. So just for you, maybe if you think in this direction is kind of right decision.
Well,
okay, so sorry.
I think I have a motivation which is hardly described in the terms of labor economics. So I entered the HEC University just to study something interesting and something which is interesting to me, and in which I can, let's say so, self-realize. So it's not it can be partly for the job, but the main part is for some receiving skills, knowledges, I don't know, contacts, and so on.
Yeah, look, contacts, yeah, basically networking. Networking is really crucial when you think about future life. And basically, what is self-realization? Self-realization, you earn some skills and abilities, yeah? And if you're really interested in this, and if you get the knowledge, then even if you do not think about labor market, it can help you in the future when you thinking about to get a job, for instance.
So it's just the direct investment in human capital, even if I don't understand it. Let's say so.
Yeah, for instance, basically, yeah. So, and yeah, for instance, motivated peers. Yeah, the group mates motivated. So about networking and basically context. Maybe it's like good or not, but if we speak about Russian labor market, there are studies that show that most higher share of people basically find their job using their context, yeah, using basically so-called social networking. And it doesn't mean that this is corruption. No. Basically, social networking is just additional channel in the labor market which allows you to find a job. And why usually some people from the good places using this basically social networking to finding people. Think about what we're going to discuss it, but okay, do you believe that basically employers in the labor market can have really tools to detect the productivity of the workers? Okay, do you think that in the recruitment process, there are really working tools in order to understand whether these specific workers is productive or not? Can we think about this type of techniques, for instance, instruments or whatever?
I reckon that there is no full and clear information in the labor market, so it's just unrealistic assumption.
Yeah, it's unrealistic assumption basically. And when we're going to discuss so-called statistical discrimination in the labor market, it's based on this idea that basically we have what? We have the problem with getting the full information, so-called the symmetric information problems, yeah? And because of that, social networking is just a channel somehow to check the productivity. What does it mean? If a person, yeah, who work in this organization know some other person, and it's not like people from the street, it's not like a stranger, yeah, you can say, okay, I know this person and she or he is good. So it's kind of, you know, more efficient, yeah, in this way to find a people. Just because of you, it's saving your time and saving your maybe money to spend for the tools in order to get more closely the real productivity of the people. So it means that it's just, you know, effort saving, that's all. Of course, it's, yeah.
Am I right that so in the case an employer knows something about the employee, so for example they studied together, so the employer has some additional information on that current employee, and he or she doesn't have similar information about some other employee, so it's something like additional information, so that's the value of the contact.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, that's all. It's a kind of I mean, yeah, I mean, from the theoretical point of view, yeah, from, for instance, signaling theory, yeah, yeah, it's about additional information. So social networking is basically about additional information. And for instance, some organizations, as I call, for instance, government consulting, why I know this because I do some project in this sphere, and they usually try to find people using not the so-called open calls. Yeah, they try to find people using different professional and social networks. I mean, it's happened. It just because they want to be sure that this person is really productive. As you're right, yeah, it's about additional information. But the shadow part of this is basically, in this case, we may have so-called statistical discrimination, and we will discuss it in the next lectures. Yeah, so statistical discrimination can be positive effect for someone and can be provide negative effect for others. Okay, so about investment in human capital. So when you are decided to go to HSC, you have two possible options: to go to job and earn some money now, or basically give up earnings today because you're studying, yeah, but have a higher earnings in the future. And so it's kind of trade-off between low earnings today and higher earnings in the later. And basically, this is the idea of the human capital investments. So basically, this idea about trade-off and about investment decision, it's based on the notion of present value. And basically, this present value allows us to compare some money that you spent and that you receive in different time periods. Because decision about to go or not to go to university, it's also about how much money you should to spend, yeah, for studying in university. And it doesn't mean this basically only money that you pay for your education. It's also additional money that you need to pay, for instance, for your dormitory, for your tickets, for your basically living expenses. Yeah, you need to buy, I don't know, different notebooks, different techniques, yeah, in order to basically study, for instance, laptop at least. Yeah, you need to spend money, some tickets, you need basically eat something, you need to pay for the renting of room, or you need to pay for the dormitory. It's like additional expenses. And so this present value shows you whether it's worth to spend these expenses, yeah, comparing what you get from your education. And maybe you read some articles, and it's not, okay, it's mostly not about Russian reality, but is really problem in USA, for instance. Maybe you know what is the main problem with the USA higher education?
It's all, well, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, and
it's
really,
incredible. Yeah, it's
yeah,
extremely expensive. So there is a tradition to save some money for a child education, like I don't know, from the time of born, something like that.
Yeah, you're right. So, and basically now there is a discussion that whether people should go to university or not. The main idea that what happened. Okay, some of you try to find a job? Do you try to find a job, for instance, or do you maybe I don't know, scroll the vacancies on the, for instance, headhunter web pages? Okay, what is the main idea? That sometimes people ask some labor market experience even from the recent graduate people. And the same problem in the USA. Yeah, there is a discussion now that people basically paid a lot of money for their education, but then they cannot find a job because the same situation is in Russia. They ask, like, I don't know, when you 21 years old, yeah, they ask again labor experience, even that you, I don't know, recently graduated from university. Yeah, it's really hard to find a job, but then you have a really huge loan for your education. And some people say that it's not worth it. So like the present value that you get after your education is not like positive. It means that people spend money for education and then they do not have high return on it. So it's like called the present value. And basically, present value depends on what? It depends on the so-called rate of discount. It's basically this rate. I mean, you understand the concept of rate of discount. It's all about capital. So we need this rate of discount in order to compare the amount of money in this year and in the next year. That's all. Yeah, it's kind of inflation, yeah. And you know that, for instance, if we are going to do empirical studies, you need, like dealing with wages, you need to consider inflation in order to compare wages for different periods. That's all. Yeah, it's kind of simple idea. So, and basically, it means that it depends on how much money you can receive in specific periods. Yeah, because of T. Yeah, and depends on the discount rate. First, you may, for instance, if you study 4 years, it means that you only spent money for years. And then after 4 years, you get some salary. Yeah, and this is like your future return on your education. Yeah, the idea is simple, just comparing. And so how we estimate this? Yeah, of course, this present value depends on the differences between wages of people with, for instance, higher education and wages of people without higher education. If, for instance, in the Russian labor market, the wage gap between educated and non-educated people is not so high, It's like theoretical, yeah, it's not in reality. Then what happened? Okay, if we suppose that wage gap between educated and uneducated people is rather small, what happened about decision of investments in the education? Do many people decided to invest in education?
No, what for then should we spend time and money earning this higher education?
Yeah, you're right. So yeah, it's basically depends on the wage rate. So this is a simple pictures about decision. So it's like simple picture, people basically queued, yeah, education process after the finishing the high school and then go to college, I mean, goes to higher education. So for these people, for instance, you spend for 4 years from 18, when you are 18, yeah, and when we're 22, it's like 4 years that you study, like 4 years bachelor degree. And of people who start to work after school, it's like they start to work immediately. But after this 4 years, the wages for college graduates or university graduates is higher, basically, compared to the wages of people who just quit after the school. And then it means that it will be even higher with the time. And now maybe, like, people say, okay, without education or that amount of money. But the problem is that these people without education, they do not have really huge rise in the money with the time. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I called it, we discuss every situation. But you, maybe after the graduation of university, you will get not so much salary, but with the time, yeah, with the labor market experience, your salary became higher and higher. Okay, so going to university involves cost. As we say, it is opportunity cost. Yeah, and so the high wage paid to workers with more schooling is so-called compensation differential. So it's a kind of compensation differential that you will get after spend time and money for education in university. So how we calculate this present value? Basically what? You need to assume cost for study, like direct cost of attending college here, yeah, and then post-college earnings. And for instance, and it depends how much time do you have in the labor market. For instance, we suppose that people usually work from 18 till 64. So it means that people usually spend in the labor can spend, yes, theoretically can spend in the labor market 47 years. Yeah, from 18 to 22, people decided to get only bachelor degree. So like minus 4 years. These 4 years including some spending, because you need to spend money in order to study in university. And then you get some money after finishing the university. So if your present value is negative, then what is the decision? Negative present value means what? Do people decided to invest in education?
No, they just run from it if it is negative.
Yeah, I mean, think about United States. Yeah, if basically you spend on education more than you can earn, why do you need to go to university? I mean, if we speak about only rational side, Yeah, but I mean, all we think we discuss only theoretical models. For instance, as you said, yeah, people may decide to spend money in order for to self-realize, because people is not only about rational behavior. That's all. Yeah, you may spend money because you like to study. That's all. I like to study. I do not care about future earnings. Or think about people who are in philosophy major. I mean, probably people in philosophy major do not really think about their future earnings. I mean, because it's really, because for instance, philosophy major is not really, okay, it's labor market applicable, but it can be a problem with that. Okay,
you can just teach a new generation of philosophies in some university. I believe it's the only way.
Basically, yeah. I mean, yeah, but they also can go to journalism, for instance, and some professions that deal with text, because they usually in philosophy they learn how to read. I mean, critically read, yeah, how to explain, how to analyze this information, and something like that. Yeah, but it's kind of tricky questions. So basically, then basically what, as you said, yeah, you compare of your present value that you get from college, from going to university, with the present value that you drop the education and you go to work after the high school. And that will be your basically decision to go or not to go to university. And then in this case, the rate of discount plays kind of crucial role. So the higher rate of discount, the less likely worker will invest in education. And firstly, we discussed that the rate of discount, it's usually it's usually, of course, include inflation. But in real life, do you believe that rate of discount, it can be the same for people? Okay, this is inflation, is the same, yeah, but okay, I'm sure that in your micro and micro courses you discuss the marginal diminishing return to your utility. So that for different people, I don't know, have additional apple, like pay for additional apple, it depends. Yeah, it depends on how you like apple. Yeah. Do you get the ideas?
Yes, we got it.
Yeah, so it means that for some people the value of money can be different. Yeah, it's funny, not funny, yeah. It's interesting empirical fun that the empirical basic articles show us that poor families have a higher rate of discount than more wealthy families. So so if we think about basically this decision of investments, it depends of course of person time preference. Yeah, of course it depends of other social features of like socioeconomic group where people live. Okay, why do you think for poor families rate of discount is higher compared to the more wealthy one?
It can be just because they are now at the beginning of that curve. So
Yeah,
they don't have enough to be further.
Yeah, you're right. And also, basically, the answer is simple. They cannot spend money for education. So it means that they cannot spend and wait, for instance, for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years for their children to get education, because they need money now, because they need to survive. And if you maybe, I don't know, read some studies in developing economies. Okay, what is the main problem for developing countries? It's not basically, okay, let's call it developing countries, like Africa, Asia, like poorest countries in the world. What's the problem with education here? Okay, think about this higher rate of discount. And basically, this is a real huge problem that United Nations organization discuss, like OECD discuss, the UNESCO discuss. I mean, not really widely discussed, but they care about this fact.
So
okay.
The rate is just very small, because they prefer their today's consumption. So they need it right here, right now, not in 8 or 6 years. So
yeah, you're right. And basically, the main problem that parents do not allow their children to go to school, because children start to work, I don't know, from 10 or 11 years old, and because parents say that we do not have money, we cannot allow our children to go to school instead of work, and instead of school, our children should work because they need to support their families. And there are really huge problems. And if you're interested in this United Nations volunteers program, sometimes, maybe questions. Okay, if you don't know, there are some United Nations volunteer programs, and sometimes this dealing with the basic access to education. Yeah, there are many volunteer program that deal with the education situation in different countries. Okay, basically the main question is what to do and how to push people to send their children to school. Okay, so so-called the wage schooling locus. It's basically return on your education that depends on the years of schooling. The same idea, we have diminishing return to scale to our education, that's all. So this is properties. So marginal return to schooling. So basically the percentage change in earnings resulting from 1 more year of school. Yeah, the idea is simple. So the stop-in rule. Basically, the stop-in rule is simple. Stop schooling when the marginal rate of return to schooling equal this rate of discount. Yeah, again, it depends on many factors. It's like inflation, value of earning stream, preferences, and etc., etc. So again, different rate of discount can provide different decision about schooling. So again, higher rate of discount, higher rate of discounts mean what? Increase or decrease the probability that people decided to invest to education? Higher rate of discount.
of course, it depends on the interest rate. So the higher is the interest rate, the more people are willing to invest.
No, rate of discount.
So it's the same for the rate of discount. So the high is the rate of.
So, not okay. We discussed like in a few minutes that rate discount is not only about investment rate, but also about people preferences and so on. And so higher rate of discount, what? Okay, look on the formula. If we have higher rate of discount, that I mean, so higher rate of discount we discuss with the developing countries. So if people have discounts, what about decision of schooling? Because high rate of discount is not only, again, this discount rate is not only about earning stream. Yeah, it's about preferences and value of money.
Okay.
So theoretically, high rate of discounts give us what?
Lower p-value.
Yeah.
So.
And so it means that lower present value, and then it means that it decreases the probability for people to investment in education.
Yes, because they evaluate education lower.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So basically the lower education. Okay. So basically predictions, demand for university education. Yeah, again, it's discount rate. It's basically the age of the person, because it's dealing with how much time person can spend in the labor market to earn some money. So the simple idea that if we have really expensive education, then the university decision is kind of depends on the money that you can spend for this education. So decreasing their incentives to go to university. And also it depends on the wage gap between people with higher education and without higher education. Yeah, that's simple. So because we do not have time for this, but just for you, please read at home just some empirical evidence for education from Russia. Yeah, it's like what happened in the Russian labor market. Just for you, this is not going to be in test, just for you to know. It's just some evidence, yeah, what happened in real life. Some world facts, we discussed it a bit, just for you, for your knowledge too. So age earning profile. Basically, the really simple conclusion. So highly educated workers earn more. That's all. Earnings rise over time, but at a decreasing rate. That's all. Their age earnings profile depends on the education groups. So basically, this is results for OECD countries, yeah. And you can see earnings profiles. What does it mean? It means how your wages can change over time. Because if we speak about education, of course, you spend some time on education, but when you think about earnings after education, yeah, you need to realize that we have diminishing return to your education. So what does it mean? Each year of education give you what? Diminishing return to education. What does it mean? Basically?
So each additional year of education gives you less, I know, change in your earnings.
Yeah,
your income.
So basically your earnings rise up to certain points. It's not mean your amount of salary, but it mean like return on additional year of education. So your salary can be rise, yeah, until, I don't know, you're elderly, yeah, until like each year. But I mean, here we speak about marginal return to education. Yes, for you. So this is, you see, it's kind of steep. Yeah, it's like rise and then kind of steeper. Here is a picture for Russia. So it's like for different years. You see kind of maybe it's like 2015, for instance. So you see a bit different picture, but it looks like OECD, yeah, but it kind of different. What we have when we have the peak of the marginal return to education, in what year approximately?
The beginning of 40s.
Yeah, yes. Then we have a kind of plateau. Yeah, it's till approximately like 50. Yeah, and after the 50, you have the plateau, and after basically when people get pension, their return to education start and decrease. No, not return to education. Sorry, return to each year of age. Yeah, so basically, like we have approximately in 30, you have your peak, then you have kind of plateau. Yeah, and from approximately 55, your return to each year of your life, or for instance, each year of labor market experience, basically decrease. I mean, not so pessimistic pictures. Yeah, it's for Russian labor market approximately. Okay, basically, let's stop it now with the H-earning profile. Just finish with the H-earning, and then we continue with the human capital in the next lecture. And basically, I'm not going to ask the, information that we do not study. In this lecture, so like we left some information about human capital, but the next test will be based on the first 20 slides of the lectures. Okay.
Okay. And at 1 p.m. we will have a seminar. But
yeah, it will be about empirical methods in labor economics. We continue with that. If you remember, we have seminars, as I told you, basically about the second part of the empirical methods. We study with your Probit and Logit, if you remember, and we are going to continue discussing the empirical methods that you can basically find in labor economics articles.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry. Could you repeat? So we'll have the next test based on this lecture, but only first 20 slides, right?
Yeah, because we do not study the next tense. So basically, like we finish with H-earning profiles, please check it. And for the next lecture, we starting with the, sorry, I just show you. We're starting with the difference in abilities, ability bias, return to school, to schooling, and signal theory. So please, as I encourage you, please read the slide with the present value, because I may ask you to calculate the present value and for some people. Okay, so some basic theory about rate of discount, blah, 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 and about like small calculations. It's will be about, with high probability, about present values. Okay?
Will we have debates at 1 p.m.?
No, as I told you, the next debate will be on 29 of November.
Oh, okay, thank you.
As I wrote you, today's seminars will be the second part of our empirical methods seminars.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you. See you at 1 p.m.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, bye.